Thank you for listening to our pitch video. I am going to be kind of introducing you guys to our project, which is called the Husker Concussion Rehabilitation Mobile Application. And this is actually a continuation of a project from last year, where we partnered with Senior Design Project and had a team who really created the initial steps of our mobile application. So we are looking forward to being able to work with you guys again this year and have a new team with new perspectives and new ideas. So a little bit first about who we are. My name is Amanda Rodriguez. I am a professor here at UNL, and I'm also the director of the CAVE Lab, and that is an acronym for a very long name of Concussion and Vestibular Evaluation Lab here at UNL. Our lab is located at the Memorial Stadium, right next to the football field, and so we actually interact quite a bit with University of Nebraska's athletic department. So I am actually a vestibular audiologist by trade. I actually still see patients on East Campus, and I work clinically with the Nebraska student athletes. The purpose of our lab is to really serve both a research capacity as well as a clinical service provision for Nebraska athletics. And part of the stakeholders for this project are relevant here. So one of my really good colleagues and friends is Dr. Kate Higgins, and she is a sport neuropsychologist, and she's down here at the bottom. And Dr. Kate works closely with Nebraska athletics and the athletes, particularly after concussion. She's an expert in sports concussion, and she works more on the neurocognitive side, what happens after concussion, as well as mental health issues that can happen that are really, really common in concussion these days. I also have a great team within the CAVE Lab, and that's Manuel Vicente. He's right here in the middle. And Manuel is actually my lab manager. And he was with me for the year one of this project last year. Kylie Bond is another one of my graduate students. And so she's actually really in charge of the overall operations of the CAVE Lab when it comes to the athletes as well. And then I have another great colleague who was actually a student of mine and now has since graduated. And this is Dr. Hannah Hills. And Hannah is actually a doctor of occupational therapy. And one of her passions is working with vision therapy post-concussion. So what you'll see here is that our team of folks, we kind of span a really nice array of concussion management, and that's vestibular, visual, neurocognitive, and we're also from different walks of life, which I think really helps. Really helps in working with a team of computer science engineering students. We are students ourselves, some of us. We are early career individuals, so we've got a lot of energy and creativity, and we want to push the boundaries. We also, some of us serve in academia. So myself and Dr. Higgins, we are used to and we are interested in helping, mentoring, and still teaching as we develop these tools with different folks from different disciplines. One thing that I love about my lab particularly is that I try to branch out from just the norm. So people like Hannah, who's an occupational therapist, people like Dr. Higgins, who's sport neuropsychology, we're really trying to marry all of these disciplines together to create a really cool product and really cool research. So a little bit about what we exactly do in the CAVE Lab. So I said before that we are a research lab within the Center for Brain and Biology, which is just right next to the football field and Memorial Stadium. But what we do actually is that we test every single Nebraska student athlete that comes in at baseline before they start playing their sport. And anytime they have a concussion, they will come and see us. And so we're able to compare apples to apples in a way with each athlete. We can use their baseline information to determine, are they ready to go back to play after an injury, a head injury. So these are just some snapshots of kind of what we do, but we test the ear quite a bit. That's what audiologists do. So we test hearing, we test their visual system, how they're able to maintain steady vision with movement or without movement. And that's kind of what you see here with this guy looking at his eyes and these cool video recording goggles where we do some eye tracking. And of course, we also look at their balance. So we're always really interested in how athletes can maintain steady balance when they're on one foot, jumping, really being dynamic as they do. So we do these clinical assessments, and then we also kind of store them for research, and we've been able to publish most recently some really cool innovative work on what happens to the vestibular system after sports concussion and can it be fixed. So why is our work important? One of the best things about my team last year was that a lot of those kids said, I was really interested in this work because I was either an athlete or I had a concussion, and no one ever said anything about what I needed to do. And so I think that more and more as the concussion that happen in sports becomes more apparent to actual athletes, it's a lot more self-advocacy of when they do get injured and they don't feel right. So our work is really important because having dizziness and imbalance can lead to longer concussion recovery, and that's been researched. So if you have a concussion and you have dizziness or imbalance or blurred vision, then that often means that you're going to have a longer recovery and takes longer for you to return to play or return to learn. But with that being said, is that if we wait too long, sometimes those symptoms get even more permanent. And sometimes if we go too early, there's a risk of more injury. So naturally, if you can't see very well, or if the world sort of jumbles like this as you're walking, certainly you wouldn't feel well. You feel nauseous. You probably would be really unsteady. And that's usually when athletes are a higher risk for a secondary sports concussion or orthopedic injury. So our job is to test and to intervene with rehabilitation as quickly as possible. And because we want to be able to treat the cause and or the symptoms to better the outcome for the athlete. And that's really what our goal is. And so how do we help athletes actually get better in our lab? We use a thing that's called vestibular rehabilitation. This isn't new. This is something that is well researched. Usually physical therapists, vestibular audiologists, and sometimes occupational therapists can administer this type of rehab. And essentially it is a workout for your eyes, your ears, and your balance. So it is a progressive exercise regimen that is meant to get the athlete to habituate or to get used to visual and body movement. And the more that we can get them used to that, the more that the brain is going to synchronize eye, ears, and balance together to make the person feel functionally well. And so the idea and the key word here is that it is progressive and it is something that requires work. And so we often tell our athletes, it's all about exercising your eyes, your ears, and your balance. Just like a workout you would do to build muscle, to bulk up before the season starts. And so some of the things that we do in our lab post-injury when this person comes in is that we test their eyes. And we test their eyes using infrared video recording goggles. This is a form of eye tracking where we're able to actually watch the pupils. And these individuals wear goggles and they follow a stimuli like on a light bar. And we're actually able to objectively measure what their eyes are doing in real time. Are both eyes moving? It's not uncommon after sports concussion for athletes to have disconjugate eye movement, meaning their eyes just don't move together. And that's why they feel so bad. And so we can actually make that better. We can do that by doing what we call ocular motor exercises. And that's what Kylie here is doing. She's training the eyes to get used to tracking an object back and forth, which is essentially her thumb. And we actually made these videos intentionally for this app so we can actually have the athlete remind themselves of how to do these exercises. Another form of vestibular rehab that we do very often is called gaze stabilization exercises. In this one, this is actually really important. We want to be sure that athletes are able to maintain steady vision on a moving target or when they're moving. Think of a wide receiver who needs to run down the field, whip his head around, and catch a moving football and not fall down. So this is all called gaze stability. So in this case, this gentleman is doing a test where he has to visually see a letter with head movement. And when people have symptoms after concussion, this is really hard. Either the letter becomes blurry or they get really nauseous with head movement. So we're all about increasing their ability to tolerate the task, but also increasing their head movement because athletes are dynamic. They've got to move quickly. So the exercise that we use is basically doing that. So what you see here is Manuel is staring at a visual target, an X on the wall, and he's moving his head back and forth. Ideally, we'd love to have a timer on here that allows them to just move their head to a beat. And we can actually make this harder by making them move their head faster, making them do it longer, and or making them stand in what's called a tandem stance, which is heel toe. This is not easy. It's actually making your eyes and your ears and your balance work together. But that is the premise of vestibular rehabilitation. So what is the current problem and why is this app even, necessary? Right now, vestibular rehab programs are really geared for geriatric older adult populations. Yes, they're definitely there for kids and athletes, but that is far and few between. There's such less access to specialists who work in this population. Think about rural Nebraska, think about small towns when there's just really not a specialized physical therapist or somebody right there. And if the goal is that we want to get in here quickly and intervene quickly, there can be a lot of gap time between when an athlete or a kid has a concussion and when they can actually get help. And sometimes that timing is everything. If we wait too long, symptoms can become worse and harder to parse apart. So one other problem with that is also money, right? So sometimes going to see a specialized doctor to do this rehab costs money. And for a lot of people, sometimes that's just not feasible. So this app, we thought, could be a way to promote greater access, quicker intervention, to at least hold somebody over until they're able to see a therapist in person, or God forbid, there's another COVID pandemic of some kind or some kind of pandemic. And what if we can't see people in person? This is an opportunity for us to create better access to athletes. That's also more geared for a younger adult population where mobile apps and applications and workout apps are kind of the rise, right? Everybody wants to be on that. And this is really an opportunity to engage better with our target population. The last thing that's a problem is compliance. As I said before, this is a workout program. So if you don't work out and do your program as recommended daily, 3 times a day, usually what we ask our athletes to do, that person may not benefit from the rehab like they could if they did it. But there is really no way for me to really know if an 18-year-old tells me, yeah, I did it, if they really did it. And so having an app that's able to track if the person actually opened the app, engaged in the app, might give us more indication about actual outcomes. And if that person is compliant, is what we say. So what was our initial dream? Our initial dream was we wanted to create a mobile application that was based on a vestibular rehab program that athletes can download wherever they are at and do wherever they're at, home, in a training room, on their way to class. We also wanted a web application that paired with this mobile app to track their symptoms and their data over time. It was also an opportunity for me to think I could then also maybe change their workout remotely. So if I saw that they were doing really well and I wanted to make it harder because they could take more, could I just flip a button and make their rehab a little bit harder the next time they open their app? And so in year 1, we really had great success in being able to really get the creation started. We also wanted to develop these applications with current operating systems. So Android, iOS, anything that was accessible. And we also wanted to integrate some tools that we use in the clinic into this app. So things like integrating a metronome that I could actually change to make it go faster or slower, integrating a timer so the athlete doesn't have to wear a watch or look at their phone to measure how much time they had to do this for, and any kind of visual stimuli as well. So this, to kind of start first, our team last year created the web-based application for the clinician. So this is kind of showing some still shots of that web-based application. So here's the interface right here. They created the beautiful login page where there was permissions and roles designated for clinicians to register, get a password, and sign in. And from there, they could add an athlete and they could then go in and change all the different exercises and change the parameters of the exercises. So we're able at this point to change how long we want them to do it, what we want their posture to be. Should they be sitting? Should they be standing? Should they be in tandem? And also change the metronome. And then the best part, I think, of this is that then I can look and see when the athlete logged in and what their symptoms were, what they rated their symptoms to be after each exercise. So this is really the start of this really awesome web-based application that is intended for the clinician to go in, create the athlete's account, and create their personalized exercise program and then make modifications. It is using React Native software to work on all browsers, Safari, Chrome, Google. But the only thing at this point right now is that it's really not 100% functional. So it isn't live, and it's something that we want to work our way towards. Now, the mobile-based application is for the athlete. So our team created the initial steps of this mobile-based application. So this is also written with React Native, and it is something that would be compatible with iOS and Android. It's not currently downloadable on for Apple or iOS. There is a version that we can download for Android that's just kind of like a demo version. So it's also not live. But the team was able to create the initial step of the login page for the athlete. So the athlete would create their username and password. It's personal to them. They would then go into right now we have a demo mode. But then they were able to see what exercise they had to do. They could click on a button to see video, and then the video would pop up to show them what to do. And then they would hit start, and they would integrate the timer or the overall metronome. So really cool, exciting stuff that team was able to create last year. So what's next? This year, we wanted to expand and continue to build more stylistic and soft features. I really want this app to look sleek. I want it to look comparable to like a Nike or Adidas workout app. And I want to continue to move in that direction. So it is going to appeal to our target audience, kids, high school kids, college kids. We want to be sure the data is protected on the back end and the front end. We don't have to worry too much about HIPAA regulations in this context because we're not in a clinical setting, but we do want to be sure that their data is being protected. And it is written, using Amazon Web Services. So being sure that we are doing all of the protection that is needed to keep the data protected as it's being transferred from mobile to web and that kind of thing. We also want to consider adding in visual processing tasks and other types of symptoms rating scales. So one thing that we asked our team last year to do was to, after every exercise, the athlete had to rate what was my symptoms, the same, better, or worse. We want to consider adding a little bit more of just general symptoms, like today I feel great, today I feel terrible, today I went to class, today I didn't go to class. And then lastly, at the end of this year, we want to be sure that we have a functional app that talks to the mobile and the web, that the clinician can modify changes, and those changes are made in real time to the app for the athlete. I would really love to deploy it and actually pilot this app and the web-based application on an actual athlete post-concussion. Obviously, I cannot disclose the overall, for privacy reasons, I can't disclose who that will be, or I cannot just make them a stakeholder. But it'd be really cool to actually have the team get feedback from an athlete who maybe had a concussion, or work with the app and say, what do you like about this? What do you don't like about this? And we have the ability in our lab to do that for you guys. So the impact of our app I think, touches many different levels. Locally, concussions are happening in Lincoln sports all around town. They're also happening all over, and they're affecting not just our student athletes, but also youth. This app has potential to not just stay within Nebraska athletics, but also be used in clinical settings around the town for kids around town. The statewide is that Nebraska has two main medical hubs, Omaha and Lincoln. Aside from that, people have to travel from Western Nebraska to come and get care. So how great could this app be at improving accessibility to get intervention quickly to people? And then nationally, this app could be one of the first applications to target sport programs, but also be implemented in sport programs, youth programs, or even just hospital settings. So I think it's a really cool device technology that could have a lot of impact in different ways. So really the take home here is that concussions are going to happen. We are not on the philosophy that we want to prevent concussions and that we need to minimize all of that. The reality is that concussions come in all shapes and sizes, and that we believe that sports are an important part of development and important part of leadership and teamwork. But we want to take a more active approach in minimizing long-term consequences of vestibular issues. And the way to do that is to actually intervene quickly and creating better access to care in whatever capacity that may look like. And we want to target using technology to be able to reach our individuals. And the thing that I will end with here is that what can our project do for you guys? You guys are going to deliver us a functional, hopefully functional, app that we can pilot. So what we can do for you is give you a really team-based experience. We are all on our stakeholder team. We are individuals in healthcare. So we are not programmers. We are not engineers. We are healthcare providers. We are researchers. And the beauty of that is that we're going to tell you what we want, exactly what we want. And we're going to tell you when something works, something doesn't work. We are also not going to take over and tell you how to program something. We're going to rely on you and your knowledge and skills and expertise. And that is a great marriage between biomedical research and biomedical technology. And so we really believe in that. The other thing too is that, like I said before, we are used to mentoring and working with students. We enjoy it, we love it, and we love seeing you guys grow. And so in our lab, we will do anything in our power to give you context, to give you help, and facilitate you. Even with COVID happening right now, we can bring you into the lab, we can show you the stadium, we can show you our technology, we can interact with athletes anonymously. So we can give you that real-time feedback in different ways and give you context to what we're talking about. And we would love to do that for you. So hopefully that was not too long of a pitch video. I do believe it's important to set the precedence of why we want to do this app in the first place. So thank you for your listening. And if you have any questions, I'm sure that they'll give my information out to you guys. But it's amanda.rodriguez@unl.edu. And I really look forward to the next year with a new team. Thanks so much and have a great day.